Matt. Been waxing.
Yeah, it's been good. We started in Manchester and we're not annoyed, but we're a bit worried because we don't like to start in a big venue because the first few nights of a tour are always pretty ropey.
You get the cobwebs
to take
out,
songs from a rehearsal room to playing live. But Manchester turned out to be a really cracking gig. So from that, I think that gave a lot of confidence that we could actually play the songs off the new album live, and the crowds would respond well to them. And every few days we've had like a nice fill-up with a really good gig. So we had a great gig in Newcastle at like a room that we've always been to gigs when we've been like, younger.
Yeah.
Like Matt had been there the week before to see Slash, and Slash was standing in the place that Matt was then standing on the Saturday, so that was pretty crazy.
I was almost tempted just to lick the floors in case I could sweat or something. I didn't.
The gigs, yeah, full of like Leeds was really good, Sheffield was a cracking gig.
They've all been good for different reasons, I think.
Yeah.
Like some of them were like proper rowdy gigs where you like the crowd are going mental. But then there's some gigs like Manchester, people listen, and Norwich
people were like
really quiet, but like appreciative and like really attentive.
in a way, and it was a really small venue, so I felt like people really got to see what at work.
Yeah.
Like they could see every blemish, so every time we made a slight mistake we kind of look at each other, and because people were right in front of you it was just really evident.
Can't hide.
And I think it was lovely to play to a crowd that were that close, because you can make the songs connect in a different way. And you can play, like, I think we played really dynamically in that gig, you know, in a big venue. I think sometimes even though there is subtlety and differences within the set, you just play it at a certain volume all the way through, whereas I think in Norwich, because there wasn't, like, we had to really balance our own sound on stage to be able to hear each other. And I think that made we play in a really, like, from a musical point of view, I'd say that was probably our best gig, because we're really listening to each other, and I think people got a sense of that in the room, which that was such a different gig than the Newcastle gig, which was just total euphoria and total emotion of, like, 5 years ago we were playing in pubs in Newcastle, and now we can kind of play. It was such a humbling gig to go from that to Norwich, but they were still both in their own right really fantastic gigs, and they've all been like that. Like you say, they've all had something a little bit different about them.
It's easy. Yeah. It's easy to get yourself motivated about gigs,
Every gig's a different. It's like a night out. Like the night outs that end up being like the most legendary nights of your life, or nights that you didn't even probably think, I'll go out tonight. And it's the same with gigs. Like you look forward to a gig for weeks and weeks, and it might be total shit. And then the gig the next night, you might think this is going to be awful. Like Manchester was a great example. Like the sound check was terrible because the venue was empty during the sound check, obviously. So the sound on stage was awful. We weren't confident on playing like 6 or 7 brand new songs live, but it turned out to be for some unknown reason. It shouldn't have been a good gig, but it was an absolutely fantastic gig. So I think the unknown is the motivation. And every night, like, it's such a different challenge. Like somebody can put your CD on and listen to it again and again and again and get a different thing from it, and it's there. It's like it's a moment. It's not a moment in time. Like it's something solid that people can listen to and like pour over. Whereas a gig, it's like it's a moment, and when it's gone, and you have to kind of make, like in that instant, you have to make your music connect, and because that's a different challenge every night with a different audience, and a different sounding room in a different place. Like different places will react to different songs in different ways, and people who might be more familiar with certain songs in Portsmouth, different to songs in like people are in Norwich or Birmingham or Leeds. So like the unknown is the motivation really.
No, yeah,
I don't know what it's like for you, that's what's like for me.
I guess it's lovely to go on stage and have people listen to you. Yeah. Regardless of what you're up to. I think it's probably the same like the art world. If you've got a painting and people are like, I want to go and see that painting. I think that's your motivation. Do it for the people, man.
I think I found that maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I could write songs if I kind of took a situation and explored it, and it wasn't necessarily me I was writing about. Like I felt by dotting around I could tell stories in maybe a slightly different way language-wise. So I do find like issues between people that made like fascinating subject to write about. And I read a statistic, I think it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it was when I was writing the lyrics for Her Black Eyes. That's the first time I wrote a song about domestic violence, and I read a lot, I was on the internet and I read a lot of accounts of people who'd suffered domestic violence, and that was pretty harrowing really, like the language they used in a totally different way that you'd expect language to be used rather than something like that. And then I think I read somewhere that at some point in your life, one in every 5 women will have experience of domestic violence. And I just thought like that's a pretty, in society, that's a pretty underrepresented it's a pretty underrepresented issue. I think sexism is still massively prevalent in our society. If you look at the makeup of Parliament, like the makeup of big business, like it's dominated by men, and I think men are often just aggressive bullies. And I think countries that I really like Scandinavian countries, like, not only are they far more socialist, but they also have a greater proportion of women in important roles in society. I think our society could benefit from a lot of what you would see as feminine qualities.
Yeah.
So that's why I like writing about issues that maybe are a little bit underrepresented, or I feel are underrepresented. It's always, we haven't attached that description to our music.
So what's your sort of, what do you think it is?
I think it's either a reference to like kitchen sink dramas,
Right.
so like somebody writing about a social situation.
Pretty loud, isn't it?
Or the fact that we make references to like lots of bits and bobs from a kitchen and word lyrics. That's what we've narrowed it down here, maybe.
Before it's in the background.
My favourite unsigned band is probably a guy called Ajamal from Newcastle, who just makes the most spectacular music.
Definitely. And Bonnie Junction, I suppose they're classed.
Bonnie Junction from Edinburgh, they're an awesome young band.
They're smashing, yeah.
Really interesting soundscapes.
Yeah, the drummer's just a machine, like. Favourite song to play live has got to be In Blue Music We Trust. I think it's got an ending which I think we've all wanted to do for a long time. It's just a rock out, really.
Yes, nice and emotional.
Yeah, it starts really subtle, I suppose, and really kind of innocent, and then it turns into this big.
I think it's the only song in the set really that's about us and our experiences.
Supergroup vocals, David Bowie, pretty standard. Guitar, I reckon Richie Sambora. Drums, John Bonham. And bass player,
I'd get George Harrison to play the bass. Because he's that good on the guitar that he must be able to play the bass as well. And often the best bass players.
Often, but I mean, not all the time.
Must be a better bass player than that, surely.
Victor Wooten's insane, like, but in a band situation, John Paul Jones, the rhythm section have to be the same. John Paul Jones and John Paul.
That's a fair point actually.
You've got to keep them together, I think. Same if you had Keith Moon as your drummer, you probably had to have John Emerson.
Jeremy off Everything, musical bass.
And he plays with a pleck,
That lad can play the bass.
with a pleck.
Gigging or festivals?
Gigging.
Noel Liam.
Noel.
Beer or spirits?
Spirits. Nice.
City or United?
Neither.
Corrie or EastEnders?
Corrie.
Facebook or Twitter?
Back to the Future.
Bieber or One Direction?
Shooting a lot of them.
Independent sandwich shops or Subway?
Independent sandwich shops! The joke's pretty.
He's got a selection of cheese jokes he wants to share with you.
Yeah, they're not cheesy at all.
Quick.
What sort of cheese isn't yours? Clearly nacho cheese! What sort of cheese would you use to coax a bear down from a tree? Come on, bear. What sort of cheese would you use to hide a small horse? Mascarpone.
Any more? Make one up now.
What sort of cheese smells the worst? Right. Really, really smelly cheese.
It's a shame that I don't love